Boldness is central to Blackness. We celebrate boldly, we worship boldly, we engage with one another boldly. I don't think in any other way.
Charles Harbison is a designer, creative director, and founder of Harbison, a luxury brand that's rooted in bold design and elite craftsmanship. Charles has developed a uniquely informed understanding of the fundamentals of design and the complex science behind fabrics, as well as dressing some of the most iconic celebrities like Beyonce and Ava DuVernay, to mention a few. You're damn near undercover therapist, but go ahead.
That's hilarious. Fashion has always been very personal for me, and its usage in my life and in the lives of the people around me has always been so personal. Being raised in a working class environment, it was always a big deal getting dressed. First of all, I'm working with women, queer people, people of color. So there's so much that everyone is dealing with. My goal is, if you decide to choose Harbison, it has to make your life better.
To whom much is given, much is required. Part of that requirement is sharing. Culture is the heartbeat within our lives, and it's at the core of so many things. While we live in a time when we are starving for wisdom, I welcome you to your wisdom retreat at Culture Raises Us. When you hear culture, what does that mean to you?
Well, first, thank you.
You're very welcome.
For having me.
Pleasure.
I think of culture as how people relate to one another. You know, whatever those sorts of, whatever the language, the vocabulary, the performance, the activity, just the communal ways in which individuals are connecting with one another.
Was there a particular moment that you can recall where you remember feeling how influential fashion and Black culture was to shaping overall global landscape, culture, and life?
Well, I can say that the first time fashion mattered to me was watching my mom get dressed. And I call upon this memory so often. It really is one of the cornerstones, I guess, of my profession and also my brand. But it was watching her kind of transform. I have distinct memories of sitting on the bed, watching her like choose what earrings to wear, choose what lip color, asking me like which shoe or do you like this? Because I think she could tell that I just enjoyed being in the room while she went through her ritual of getting dressed. Her process, particularly her being a working class woman and the kind of mutation that would happen between like the work clothes of her 9 to 5
and then the
evenings and the weekends, you know, because my parents were like young and hot. So it's like whatever they look like on the weekends versus then what she looked like on Sunday and how like clothing and fashion was central to this presentation of self. So, well, you know, I didn't think about it as comprehensively back then. It was just like, oh, this is fun and this matters for her and I like being a part of this process with her.
But when was there a moment where you realized for the world how influential, I say our culture, Black culture, and fashion or fashion and or both have been to influencing global culture? Like that moment where you saw something, you're like, oh, this is when I knew this is real. This is it.
You know, I can't say that I've ever thought about it in such a grandiose way. I think I came to see that through my career, but fashion has always been very personal for me. And its usage in my life and in the lives of the people around me has always been so personal. I think it has a lot to do with being raised in a working class environment.
Where are you from?
North Carolina. The foothills of North Carolina. A mill town, really, is what it was. Mill, yes, back then. Like everyone worked in either textile mills or tool factories, like that kind of context. And so the process of getting dressed always mattered because your dress for your day-to-day was filtered through utilitarianism, right? It was filtered through your 9 to 5, which was the day, was filtered through your job. And so it was always a big deal getting dressed. Us getting dressed as children for holidays, like certain holidays align with certain purchases. And, you know, Easter, you got new shoes and, you know, and a new suit. And that would like go through the season, and then the beginning of the school year, you got another pair of new shoes. So it was always very personal. So I can't say that I'm still, well, I can say that I'm still led by that idea. So when I think about like, oh, this is when I realized it mattered, particularly like Black culture's performance of dressing mattered on a global scale. I can't say that I've ever really thought about it in that way because I was just raised so Black. And so it was just like,
raised so Black.
So because I was raised by Black people in a very like small town that was quite segregated, and, it was always Black faces that loved me and cared for me, and, the faces of aspiration were Black and all of that. And I saw Blackness on the television. And then when I went to school, obviously I began to engage with, people across the color spectrum. But it's always been so personal and tight for me. I appreciate how, the clothing that I make that's filtered through my life and my taste is appreciated by people around the globe, but I'm still not like led by that.
Yeah, so you're led by the principles that you grew up in and that you were exposed to. Yeah,
and that mattered to me.
To
like
you.
That shirt mattered to me. That shoe mattered to me. I watched that dress matter to her. I watched that suit matter to him. The brooch that like my mom would wear would end up on my lapel, because my dad would do. It was just all very personal. And the globalization of it, or the global impact of it, I think is beautiful and amazing.
So when you talk about mattering to me and you talk about the personalization, I think about within your custom offering, you say our vision, your moment, a true celebration of style. And when you say our, is that inclusive of the client or is that of the Harbison vision?
It's all comprehensive, right? Like, yes, there is that Harbison vision, and it is led by me and my experience in the world. But then that's my experience. And largely with a collection that's based in women's wear, I'm siphoning in and distilling the experiences of the women in my life, past, present, and future, right? And how clothing makes them feel. So it is our in that sense, right? It is a conversation that I'm having with them, and which is a conversation that I first had with her, which is my mom back then, and it's still happening, and I appreciate that. I think that's the first time I've ever made that connection.
That was the thing I was just about to jump on, like how impactful your mother has been in not only what you've become for now, but even infused into what you're creating.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like that, because she's still the woman, right? Like her, my grandmother, my aunts,
almost.
The muse, 100%. Like, it still starts with her. Funny enough, I actually did a brand video when we launched, 2.5-3 years ago. And I think I even said that it started with her, like, or it's for her, but that her now has mutated into a myriad of people, right? It includes men, women, people of a myriad of identities across like race and culture, but it still started with her. And so in many ways, like every customer is still connecting to that one woman's experience in the world, because then that's how I fell in love with this tool of clothing, right? And how, first I was the customer, right? Because I then was taking that process that I saw her love, and I also saw my father love, made it a part of my life. And then now I'm seeking to transfer that to more people around the world. But yeah, it's definitely her.
Rooted in her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you reference bold a lot. And I feel that consistency across what you do. I also feel a level of elegance.
Thank you.
And why do you deem it so important, though, to be so bold and show us in such a bold, elegant way?
Clothing is such an opportunity. It's a daily opportunity to visually represent yourself to the world before you speak or anything, right? It is such a wonderful privilege. And so I don't take privilege lightly. And so it's like, okay, if this is something that I get to do every day, like let's do it bigger bolder and more exciting. I also make clothing that I want to be covetable and is filtered through art. And so I want you to love it in a legacy sort of way. I want it to be a talisman that you're handing down, or it's a moment you're kind of memorializing a moment in this look, in this item. So in that sense, I also want it to be bold because I want it to be worth your time and your money, you know? And then also my identities are such that boldness is very much a part of just, first of all, boldness is like central to Blackness. You know?
Synonymous.
100%, right? So that was something, you know, as a youth, we celebrated boldly, we worshiped boldly. We engaged with one another boldly. We dressed boldly.
So why wouldn't it be bold in everything that
I don't think in any other way, because it's just like central to who I am. My queerness is bold. Like, you know, being raised working class, you know, like the idea of upward mobility is very like bold, right? And
audacious,
beautiful word, 100%. So I think this is just who I am. And then I find so many clients and customers who are either inherently that themselves,
or you help to bring it out.
And that I really love.
That's true. So yeah, how are those interactions? Because I'm sure there are clients who come through the door and you're just like, they already have that, I don't want to say it, but that it. But then there are the clients who come in and they don't have that it. How do you approach those scenarios to kind of offer, get to?
Well, I love connecting.
Okay, I can see that.
With my clients, well, with most people, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I do. It's just, you know, I'm curious, and like I can only know as much as I know.
That's right.
And you garner knowledge through experience, connection, all of that, and I love that.
You're damn near undercover therapist, but go ahead.
That's hilarious.
I mean, no, real talk. I mean, with customization at the level in which you're doing, you got to peel back some layers to get to the real unlock of boldness.
But I'm sorry about it that way. No, I've never thought about it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me add that to the invoice.
Say less. But 15% Chambers Group account.
Thank you. I've done a decent amount on myself, or you know, I've gone through a decent amount of therapy and counseling. So I do love that. I've noticed that when talent comes through the door, they are like, okay, I am bold and I am known, and so your clothing is consistent with you know, my presentation in the world already.
Check.
So it's kind of like, it's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like it just
comes together.
Easy breezy, right? And I love that. And I love those men and women and men who when that happens, when they come through the door and they're like, you're mine. And there's a very consistent sort of relationship that I get to have with those individuals, like a Kelly Rowland, like a Sophia Bush, you know, like that are consistently coming back, and I love that. Niecy Nash, like they just come, and I appreciate that. But then clients who are like, actually, Charles, I'm really nervous about
it's a little oil and waterish,
or rather, I'm I don't know, currently a cloud, and I want to become rain. Right? It's just like it's sort of like it's just like there's an evolution that they want to happen within themselves, and they're like, this is a bit of either a shield or a cloak or something that allows me to move in the world in a way that I want to, that maybe inherently I don't feel like I'm capable of right yet, but when I put on that coat, exactly, like when that coat is on me, when that dress is on me, I feel, and particularly through the custom that I do when we're working with my clients' bodies, and it's not even my goal, it's my job, it's my task to take who they naturally are and to filter it through my image of beauty onto them, that they can then see themselves as beautiful in a different way. you know? And that's what clothing, one of the many things that clothing can do. One of the many things that I want to do and wish to do. And I'm really excited and grateful when I get to do that.
Yeah, you know, and you've said it already, but, you know, clothing and fashion, I think, can be such a great outlet that lets you tell stories without words, which is wild. And talk about that power and the opportunity in using a medium with no words to impact culture in the way that it has. 'Cause there's no words.
We use words to communicate with one another. I feel like experiences are how we communicate with ourselves. And, you know, like the many things that we love, whenever you procure or garner a thing that you love, it actually changes your experience in the world. And you begin to have a conversation with yourself like, oh, this thing makes me feel X, Y, or Z, right?
More empowered and confident.
or easy or softer. Or, you know, more joyous. Or a bit more mysterious, whatever. Like many things can do that. You know, that's generally why we buy things, you know, because of what it makes us feel or like how we want to perform through the world. And these things are theoretically supposed to help us do that. So I think that's the interesting thing about fashion is it does end up shifting you because you are having a conversation with self through putting on these things are on your body, you know? You know, a lover is occasionally on your body. Like your clothing is always on you, right? And so it, at its best, it's very personal. So I think, yes, I'll go with that. That's my final answer.
You sure? That's what. No, I feel you on that. As you were talking about it, I just think about how, you know, I came up in an era where, in particular, footwear.
Because those are.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, I have somewhat of a problem. I've been doing this for a while as a first generation consumer to then an executive and working in this industry that wasn't even an industry when I was like, to your story of growing up, like sneakers weren't a thing. But there were many of us who then helped it to become a thing, meaning I didn't buy the running shoe to actually go running in it. I bought it because I thought it was kind of cool and it was a means to express my personality. And this is circa 30 plus years ago, you know? And so as I listened to you and how you just broke down the power of fashion without it having words and what it does for the individual and how personal it is and how close it is, it's very real.
I remember, speaking of speakers, I played sports growing up because my dad was a college football coach for a long time. Anyway, playing basketball, I can't remember these particular sneakers that I wanted, and mom wouldn't buy them for me.
Yeah.
But on the sole, this was easily like, this is mid-90s. The sole had these giant like black bubbles on them. They were Nikes, clearly.
Yeah.
And
like a Max Air.
Something like that, right? But like they were really big. Anyway, she brought me a pair that had a thick sole but didn't have those circles, so I drew them on. And I felt so much better, like after having these giant black circles on my on the soles of my sneakers for the game.
Right.
But it was really like, oh yeah, this item looking this way made me feel better, and hence likely, you know, perform better in the game or whatever. So it really is about like.
But look at your tendency to customization. Look how early that started.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that comes out of being like working class and poor, right? Like.
Making it happen by any means necessary.
The ingenuity that comes out of that is wonderful.
Right.
And my family also encouraged me artistically when I was young. But it's inherent to people groups that occupy that space. You know, immigrant families understand that. Raised poor and working class people understand just the mending of things or like the tailoring of things. So there's longevity. Which is a very sustainable kind of way to live. Not kind of sustainable. It's actually sustainability is actually rooted in how those people live their lives because of the true connection to and desire to like elongate the lifelong sort of experience with a thing, right? But yes, that's totally what was happening when I was young.
you just made me think back to, my parents. They came here in the early 70s from Jamaica. And in doing that, moved straight to New York. And when I was born and when I was raised, I never was raised with the weight and heaviness of segregation and slavery. Why? Because that wasn't a thing for them. Coming to the States was, oh no, I'm going to the States for a better life, and it's the land of opportunity, and if I put my work in, I can do whatever I want to do. And they both excelled in their respective areas. But there's a very strong correlation to, I think, what you were saying of this longevity and this thought that is imparted in us in so many different ways. We're talking about it through clothes and through the sneakers, but even through just the culture and environments that are within the home that you now go out into the world with. Because I did go into certain situations with a naivety about somebody judging me by the color of my skin. What you mean? Really? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not too familiar with that. I got things I'm trying to get done, and I'm going to get it done. Now, did people in situations chip away at that? Absolutely. But at the core, I always had this notion of anything is possible.
100%.
Every and anything is possible. And what a great trampoline or springboard that is. Now, please don't get it twisted. Don't think I've never faced the implications of the races and all the things that exist, but it helps you to maneuver through. And I look at what you do as with your brand, you're equipping people to actually walk out into the world with those type of tools.
That is my goal, 100%. Because, first of all, I'm working with women, right? So they're daily, like, in the home and in the world, navigating misogyny and sexism, right? And then a lot of my customers are queer people. They're regularly navigating that. And then for the customers who are people of color, who are immigrant people, there's that extra element as well. And then on top of that, like anti-Black racism, which is a thing unto itself. So there's so much that everyone is dealing with that my goal is if you decide to choose Harbison, it has to make your life better. That's the only reason why I do this.
Yeah.
And yes, it is me kind of looking back at what a particular suit would do for my father when he would go to a place, what a particular dress would do for my mom, what a particular look would do for me. Like I remember going to school for the first, I think it was like the second grade or something like that. And it's a memory that I love so much, but it can easily make me cry because I was nervous. I think I was like heavier this particular like first day of school. And things were hard at home. And so we went to a place called Roses. This is such a personal story. It's funny. We went to a store called Roses, and I think mom got me like an oversized tee. It may have been like a Duke Blue Devils tee and some shorts. Exactly. Some shorts and some like Chuck Taylors or something like that. And I remember like I felt so great going to school. I felt like equipped to navigate all these insecurities that had built up. I was probably like first showing the signs, not first because that was at birth, but like, early bold signs of queerness. Whatever was happening for me, I just remember being really afraid and nervous about that first day of school. And that's what this look did for me. That's what that outfit kind of prepared and emboldened me and gave me confidence, right? Armor, right? And so, yes, there's so much that everyone is navigating, and there's so many things that one could choose. But the choice back then was this Blue Devils t-shirt and these shorts that made that little boy's life better. Today, if the choice that someone makes is Harbison, I have to be making your life better. And yeah.
I'm going to come back to that in a second, but something I thought about. Have you styled anyone in your family yet?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
My mom has too many clothes.
Wow. So mom is able to...
She is regularly requesting.
What was the first time? Do you remember that first time that you were able to customize something for your mother through your brand?
Well,
Or the most memorable.
Exactly. There was a particularly memorable thing. There was a particularly memorable thing. 2.5, 3 years ago, I had a Banana Republic collaboration. And my mom was the central muse for that collection. It was a capsule collection that I did with Banana Republic.
Okay.
It was released internationally and online and in stores. And mom's face was the face of the campaign. She had large images of her at Banana Republic stores, basically on billboards, and flanked by 2 models. And she was in a full Harbison for Banana Republic look, and it all revolved around her. And it was in that moment that I was like, oh, I have done the thing that I've always wanted to do, which was like really visibly and tangibly show my appreciation for her. And because I could put her on this platform. And also it was a bit of a distillation of the brand, because everyone, like women of every color, men across like sexual orientation, were all going into this store purchasing clothes that were reflective of this working class Black woman story. Okay. And all of their lives were being made better by it. So that for me was just a huge deal. Now, when she wants a dress because she has this wedding to go to, or she wants a dress because she has this church thing
tea time
going
next week,
it's like, okay, girl, like that's a whole other thing.
Come on, man, but she can make those calls.
I mean,
she should be able to.
I too have limits. Okay.
Wow. We don't need boundaries.
I too matter.
The therapist has boundaries as well. Huh?
I mean, I should hope.
Yeah, hilarious.
Right? The therapist has to go get therapy at some point.
What's the mindset shift that changed everything for you?
I had a mindset shift in 2016 when I left New York, and it was that saving my life was more important than anything else. Because I had prioritized my profession, I had prioritized kind of upward mobility with a lot of self-sacrifice. And my grandmother passed away, and I was like, this is not the legacy that she would have. Like, this isn't reflective of what she meant to me and meant in the world, with me kind of like face down in this city trying to make something happen that wasn't happening. And so I prioritized myself and left New York for LA, and that has shifted everything.
What's the best piece of advice a mentor ever gave to you?
I remember often being told to be patient, and I didn't have that in my 20s. I can't remember who told me this. I just feel myself sitting across the table from someone who I respected, and them saying, Charlie, and say they would use that as opposed to Charles, when you're really trying to get in on me. Charlie, be patient. And I think that it was either like Charlie, be patient, or Charlie, slow down. It was one of those two things that is resonating right now in this moment, right, in a really impactful way. So
you were talking about making people's lives better is a big thing for you. And I guess given the state of things right now, we're in a very interesting time frame. And I would like to hear, what are you doing specifically to ensure that the cultures and the spaces that you frequent are being nurtured properly? And what would you also recommend other creatives and consumers to do, given the times we are, and given your goal and everything that you do of what? Making people's lives better.
If there ever was a time for creators to create, it's now. And I think that's always the case. And I also don't want to be nihilistic. I want to maintain a thread of optimism, which is really important to me. But the data is the data. The context, the environment is what it is right now. And so it's so important that whatever your creative output in the world is very important that you act in that right now. I think one of the best ways to nurture culture, to nurture our environments, our context, our relationships right now, are to like have things to exchange, right? So that we are giving to one another, we are garnering from one another, because that process creates more confidence intraculturally, and it makes us all that much more capable of taking on whatever outside forces are seeking to compromise our cultural performances in the world. I think those things are really, really important. So whether it's, you know, your pies, or whether it's, you know, your scrapbooking, whether it's, you know, I like to lead meditations, or I like to do yoga in the park for my friends, whatever it is, my writing, I write letters and poems and I send them to the people that I love. Whatever that is, I think it's so important because it's our opportunity to feel just supported internally. And that's what culture is. Like, that's what is, that's the fuel that builds the ammunition, the strength. You know, every oppressed identity group under the sun, like, they've been able to take on whatever outside force because they were fortifying one another. And I feel like that fortification can happen now creatively by creating and exchanging, purchasing from one another, giving to one another, whatever it is. I think that's really, really important right now.
You know, another thing that's been a hot topic is, you know, these DE&I conversations. And when you look at how DE&I really ended up helping white women more than anyone else, what are the things we need to do now to ensure that diversity, true diversity, is reflected in the spaces where we've made so much impact culturally, I mean, over the last couple decades?
You know, I don't even know, to be honest with you. So much of, like, the DEI conversation exists in corporations, which is already, dare I say, inhumane.
Listen,
in and of itself.
Chuckle said a whole lot before making the statement. That was classic. Rightfully so.
So, you know, it's the expectations of corporations to perform in a human way. I don't think we should be foolish enough to actually have that.
But Charles, they're comprised of people, humans.
Yes, I know. But I think that's why I go back to what kind of exchange can we perform with one another so that we're less dependent upon. There's so many businesses that we can build that are led by and centralizing of a myriad of identities that diversity, equity, inclusion either said it was going to center and didn't.
Right.
It's just such a, like, tempestuous world because I just never want to expect something that is set up for my demise to ever be anything other than what it is.
Managing your expectations.
Kind of, right? And this isn't me exonerating anyone of anything whatsoever,
1000%.
you know, but it's just like, okay, it's always been what it is. How can we build new tables, which we are actively doing, that the seats at are preemptively secured for, you know, everyone who's outside of the privileged circle, and those individuals as allies who see it important for them to be in those contexts as well. I don't know, like, that's just kind of how I think about it right now, you know?
And it sounds like you're leading by example.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm a Black queer man raised poor. My product director, who's my number 2, is a Chinese American, first generation. My visuals director, who's the number 3, is Mexican American, biracial, queer. You know, I think about, you know, people of various identities when I'm designing these clothes. It's just, I've created an environment that is inherently a reflection of something because it that DEI wishes to represent, just because it's inherently who I am.
Who you are. Exactly.
And I think if we are continuing to center those experiences and those individuals, then we set up a different landscape. again, this isn't any exoneration of,
Get it?
or
Check.
this isn't even like minimizing the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it has always been important, you know, and has shown up in different ways with different nomenclature over different generations. But at the same time, there are so many individuals who are building exciting, beautiful, amazing things that you don't even have to have the expectation for it to be anything other than diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
Love it. Love it. Where does your faith play in all this?
I mean, it's who this little country boy is at the end of the day. You know, like it was very much the place. It was the communal spot for my family. My hometown was, my neighborhood. The nucleus of it was a church. And so much of my family, because they were all like within a bike ride, right? I grew up in a very sort of communal, familial context where everyone fed me, everyone raised me. Everyone kind of ended up and converged on the church on Sundays, midweek. I mean, I was there all the time, you know, and churches where I come from were those kind of community centers. Because of that, my faith was not only how I related to myself, it's how I related to others. My faith is cultural as well, you know. I love it so much. It's key for me, even as my life has grown and evolved through like travel and understanding more about like faiths around the world. I feel like I've landed even deeper in my faith, finding the places where it is so universal. And it's also the thing that keeps me going. Like,
I love it.
Thing that I built is not easy, like entrepreneurship.
I saw somebody posted something the other day. So the life of an entrepreneur one day could be, you look at your bank account and you have $64,000 in it. In the evening, it then has 62 cents.
When I tell you, it is a regular experience. It's one that I even had today. Like I screenshot something and sent it to Michelle, what the balance was in the morning and then what it became, and like the sense of relief. But then that's also going to go out.
That's right.
To bring in something else.
That's right.
So there's always that's happening. And so it requires so much faith.
Yeah.
So much faith and risk taking.
Yeah.
You know, you're betting on yourself,
That's right?
That's right. Which means that you're trusting
betting
in something unseen, betting on God's plan, right? Yeah. So there's all these unseen sorts of like this faith.
Yeah, walk by faith, not by sight. Yeah.
And entrepreneurship, you can't, if you walk by sight, it's a non-starter.
Listen.
You are not doing the thing.
You're going nowhere.
You're going back to work.
You're going back to work. Your life movie documentary is about to air in movie theaters. The first scene is rolling. What song is playing and why?
Good Days, SZA. I just adore that song.
Why? Come on.
I always feel like it paints a picture. Like I'm in a field of beauty, flowers. Maybe it feels like a reflection of like my favorite youthful moments. Because I grew up in the country, in the woods, and it just feels like I'm in a fantasy, idyllic land of Eden, listening to Good Days.
You know, in seasons of fasting, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, can obviously be way more than just food, you know, social media or alcohol and all those things. Is there a communal fast that you would advocate we move on to further align, focus, move forward?
A boycott?
Of?
I don't know. You know, there are many that are like bubbling up.
Warranted.
You know, and when warranted.
And warranted.
Based on the previous conversation.
Right.
That could be, you know, that's a valuable fast.
Yeah.
Right? Because
yeah.
it is this sort of like, how do I remove myself from this thing that I seemingly need to kind of garner some clarity about myself and that thing. And hey, that's a communal one right there.
Well, we always end these conversations with, what are the 3 seeds that you would want to share with the stewards of culture moving forward to put these cultures in the right hands with the right tools? What are the 3 seeds or tools you'd want to share?
I like this question a lot because it goes back to something that I decided day one of Harbison, which was the 3 cornerstones are style, play, and intellect. And so for me, those when it comes to stewards of culture. If we're centering style, right, which is this honest performance of self in the world. If we're centering playfulness, a sense of youthfulness, ease, curiosity, all the things that we see in young people, right, will definitely perpetuate culture. And then intellect, like intelligence is key, like learning about ourselves and the world and taking that information in to fortify, to correct and perfect. Style, play, and intellect are my 3 seeds all the time.
I love that. And way to get straight to it. This has been a super enlightening conversation. I'm so glad I was introduced to you and now feel like I've known you forever.
This is great. Thank you.
And going to know you moving forward and support you because you're needed.
Thank you.
You're so needed.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're grounded and focused on your purpose and your why. Because when you are, you know the roads that are not going to take you to where you need to go, where many people, not knowing their why, roads are going to take them anywhere. You're locked in. Stay locked in and here to support you. And thank you.
Thank you, fam.
We truly appreciate your support because it helps us fulfill our mission of promoting cultural awareness and personal development. Please click the subscribe button below to help ensure and solidify our mission.